Hi everyone, what's up? It's Joshua here from Alternative Brewing, and today we're going to be checking out the Niche Zero coffee grinder. Now the Niche Zero is an intuitively designed home coffee grinder that has become popular as it will produce, without question, commercial comparable value whilst adding further features that benefit the home user, who in general makes less than a few cups of coffee a day. And that's really key to understanding the value in the Niche Zero coffee grinder. But first, right now, you need to smash that like button, as it does help with the YouTube algorithm and we'd really appreciate it. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight back into the video. The Niche Zero comes in two colors of black and white. It weighs 4 kilograms and comes with a wooden grinds cup tray, a stainless steel grinds cup, and the wooden grinds brush for cleaning the chute. And to start at the top of the grinder and work our way down now, the lid to the top of the niche has an interlock pin on it for safety reasons. That requires you to have the lid down in order for you to operate the niche. This lid also has a neat magnetic latch that adds a satisfying comfort when closing it. Now to turn the niche on, it's done simply by a flick of the only switch that niche has, found on the right-hand side of the grinder. With this lid being clear, it also gives you the satisfaction to observe all your beans being swallowed up into the grinder. Now, beyond the Niche Zero's unique shape and form, which I'm sure we can all add our own subtext to, the obvious distinction with this grinder is that it does not have a bean hopper per se, but rather a bean funnel that can hold up to 55 grams of beans at a time, keeping the grinder's height conveniently short at 31 centimeters. And the Niche Zero approaches grinding your coffee as fresh as possible in a novel way, where you will be brewing better tasting coffee, having more control over the parameters that are often absent or not quite as precise as you want in other home coffee grinders functions. So first and foremost, this is a single dosing grinder. What I mean by that is you're going to be measuring out the specific amount of coffee you need and then grinding it within the niche each time. And then it won't be ground in a loosely estimated timing function or weighed out post ground. But the exact amount of coffee you place into the niche is going to be the exact amount you're going to get out, with very little, if at all, any grinds retained within this grinder. Almost zero. Now this factor alone removes altogether having to purge coffee from the chute between doses, and it achieves this by having a very open and direct grinding path. This also aids in eliminating needless waste and speeds up your workflow significantly whilst dialing in the tastiest espressos. I found this to be consistent right the way through using it. So whether I was changing between grind settings, say coarser to finer, or going between blends or even origins. And most easily the best way I can demonstrate this is if I were to add 2 grams into the niche and there's no effort to get those 2 grams back out. Now, most recently, Niche have standardized on all of these grinders what's known as the NFC, or the Niche Flow Control Disc. This is a small plastic insert that sits on the inner burr carrier, and it prevents popcorning of beans during grinding, which is beans that are jumping up and down rather than passing down through the burrs. Now this NFC disc has eliminated popcorning altogether on the niche, and it allows the beans to gradually enter the burr chamber and assists in a tighter grind size distribution. Now the Niche Zero is a stepless grinder, meaning you have full motion of the grind size adjuster to any small adjustments you need to make. The bean funnel doubles as your adjustment ring, with numbers that range from 0 to 50. And there are sections marked out for the ranges of favourable grind sizes like espresso, filter drip, and coarser settings, which I found to be fairly accurate. And the niche, although considered predominantly an espresso grinder, it will grind accurately for all purposes. Fine enough for Turkish coffee and espresso, through to manual espresso and mocha pot, to Delta Press and AeroPress, from pour overs like V60 and Chemex, and all the way up to automatic drip brewers like the Mocha Master, and beyond to French press and cold brewing coarse grind requirements. Now the simple act of changing grind settings on a collar adjuster can often be very stiff or feel unreliable in its accuracy. You don't get that with the niche. The rotation of that adjustment ring is super smooth and easy to turn, and using that subtle chrome dot as your settings guide offers repeatable results even after being all the way coarse and then returning to a finer setting. And making those smaller adjustments is easy to track for fine-tuning an espresso recipe. You're also able to calibrate this grinder, so you'll know those settings will remain constant regardless of whether you've pulled the grinder apart or even after a few years of wear and tear. To calibrate the niche, you just need to dial the funnel all the way fine until it won't screw any further. And then that black ring that contains the grind size indicator, this moves independently of the bean funnel. So twist this around until the grind size indicator lines up with the arrow on calibrate, and then you've calibrated the grinder. This function also helps when you're trying to achieve settings coarser than beyond 50. So say you're wanting to get to a setting of 60. We'll turn the funnel around to 50, then slide the indicator back around to 0 to start counting upwards and accurately from there. Just make sure you return your grinder back to calibration after that setting. The Niche Zero uses 63mm steel conical burrs. These are in fact the same identical burrs that are used on the commercial grade espresso grinder, the Mazziconi, which for quite a long time had been the standard grinder of choice for a lot of cafes Australia-wide. So it is expected in using these burrs that the quality of the grinds, the accuracy of the grind sizes, and the flavour they produce will be on par with commercial grade grinders. And here, the Niche does not disappoint. Being commercial burrs brings that extra benefit of a rating to maintain good performance of up to 750 kilograms of coffee. And if you were to take that number into consideration for a home user, that equates to about 50 years of having 2 cups of coffee a day before you need to consider changing out dull burrs. Now, without getting too sentimental, I've personally drunk an innumerable amount of espressos on Mazziconi grinders whilst working as a barista for over 10 years. And without realizing it, I guess I'd come accustomed to that flavor profile. Now, the particular flavor profile from these style of burrs in the Niche is remarkably nostalgic to my taste memory, which, thanks to Google, I know is a reliable source of intel. Now, the burrs are driven by a powerful DC motor and gearbox, ensuring optimal burst speed and reasonably quiet operation of under 72 decibels during grinding and also operating when empty. And depending on your grind size, it is rated to grind out at around 1 gram a second, which, let's be honest, in a cafe setting would be a little restrictive, but at home, this deliberate speed assists in a very consistent grind size distribution. Sitting just below the grind chute, comfortably fitted to the wooden grinds cup tray, is the noticeable second difference in the Niche's contemporary design. We have a grinds cup, or what we know as a dosing cup, as opposed to a portafilter holder. Now, it's the size of the cup being 58mm in diameter, which allows you to transfer your coffee directly into the portafilter without having any unwanted mess out of the chute of the grinder into the portafilter basket. There is one precondition that you may want to consider in dosing out this way, and that is that the ground coffee in the basket, once transferred over, is not just a dump and tamp. A few swirls of the portafilter whilst the cup is upside down, and maybe some sideways taps if you're into that, and even using a distribution tool like the OCD, the link is up above, and you'll really be maximizing the flavor results in the cup and keeping channeling of your espresso shots to an absolute minimum. Whilst this is not a mandatory method, it is likely to produce better results than if you were to just flip and then tamp. So you're going to see a small amount of static buildup with the Niche, but you do with any coffee grinder, and I didn't find it was too much of a concern here. And so long as you keep this grinds cup nice and clean, you can dry it out every day, it should be fine. The grinder itself, although appearing top heavy, is very stable on the bench with non-slip rubber pads to each of the 4 feet. The one other cool thing to note is that at the back, it has a 90cm retractable power cord for easy storage and transfer. In a thorough clean of the Niche, Unplug it first, and then you'll need to undo the adjustment ring all the way coarse to expose the top nut on the inner burr carrier. Undo this to remove the outer burrs off the springs, and then you can remove the inner burrs. Give the burrs a gentle scrub down with a brush, and you can wipe the inside area clean with a cloth. You can also remove the scraper at the bottom and then vacuum it out to remove any excess dust or grind buildup quite quickly before placing it all back together. And don't forget to calibrate the grinder again so you're good to go, as it does hold those settings incredibly well. And that's the Niche Zero coffee grinder for you. It isn't designed to be peppering out shots of ground coffee to a queue of customers in the commercial world, but bring some of those things we love about commercial grinders into a more relaxed home coffee brewing scenario, and the simple to use, easy to maintain and reliable functions of the Niche Zero make this a superb choice and happily partners with the low-end espresso machines as well as a high-end kit and even manually brewing options for an all-in-one coffee grinder. So if you have any questions on the Niche Zero, then throw them in the comment section down below and we'll get straight back to you. Don't forget to hit that little bell icon on your screen, and then that way you stay notified when we bring out new videos just like this every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.